Hi, everybody. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 7:30 p.m. I appreciate the resounding one hi in the room back. Thank you. And we'll begin with Section 2 roll call.
With 18 members present, simple majority is 10 and two-thirds majority is 12.
Beautiful. So we'll move to Section 3, introductions and reports, but just so everyone knows, we have the lovely Jay Thompson, who is one of our wonderful emeritus status recipients, who served as the government oversight chair in last session and has been, well, a member of SGA for many moons and has done really wonderful work for the student body. So if you can give him a light clap, that would be beautiful. Stunning. And now we can move directly from that to 3.2, since we have no messages from the student body president, to report from the executive branch, Vice President Vaughn.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I hope your week has gone well and that you enjoyed the new warm weather outside. So last Thursday, President Howard and I had a meeting to discuss the traffic appeals process with undergraduate advocate Wassinger, Emily Martin, Captain Garwood, Ryan Lofnick, Mac Houston, and Amy McClintock to fix the process. We are currently working on granting access to the traffic appeals email through ITS. On Tuesday, several senators and I met with Dean Muscat to talk about how to boost engagement within the College of Engineering for SJ elections, concerns that some students had about GoCreate, in addition to talking about how we can support more graduate students and organizations, especially in regards to organizational funding and individual funding. In addition to that, we still have an open position for the Associate Justice position. Anyone interested can still apply through Shocker Sync. On Friday, President Howard and I will have our monthly meeting with the University's Chief of Staff, Zach Gearhart, and from there we'll plan our alternative plans for Higher Education Day and talking about issues within the legislature. For our student body treasurer Wong, she's unable to attend Senate tonight due to other commitments, but for individual funding, there will be one individual funding request that will be on the agenda next week, I believe. And individual funding is now closed. So all the funds have been used or allocated or are pending approval through the Senate. And we're just waiting on receipts and reimbursements for those. For organizational funding, we reviewed a couple requests today. They will also be on the agenda for the ones that we approved. Organizational funding is still open as we still have funds, but it will likely close soon with all the applicants that we've been receiving. For our student funding task force, we met and reviewed individual funding policies, and she tasked members with reviewing organizational funding policies for our next meeting, and we're just trying to wrap up the review of the policies within the next 2 weeks. For student fees, we've been preparing our commissioners for that process. Student fees is going to be live streamed, and it will be an open gallery. It will be from March 3rd through 5th. So if you notice, we will not have Senate that week because of the student fees process. I would highly recommend you all to watch the live stream or attend in person if you're interested to see how our student fees are allocated. The recommendations of student fees from Finance Commission will be presented to the Senate on March 12th, and her email will be open for this week and the next. But please be patient, as her response would likely be delayed due to the student fees process. But if you ever need to email, her email is sjtreasure@wichita.edu. If you have any questions about student fees, individual organizational funding, or have any suggestions for our appropriations process as we review all the things through the task force. For our Chief of Staff, Westbrook, he is finalizing the meeting minutes for Finance Commission for our last meeting in addition to today's Finance Commission meeting, and is updating the record in the SJ Share Drive. So hopefully all of our signed bills should be in there very soon. For our Director of Legislative and Policy Affairs, Arons, on Monday she went to the Faculty Senate meeting where they discussed House Bill 2348, which would affect tenured faculty. The Faculty Senate sent President Howard and I the resolution that they passed regarding that specific topic. If you would like to learn more, please talk to us afterwards. Additionally, Director Arts is working to schedule a day to talk to legislators about WCU-centered initiatives. For our Director of International Affairs 1J, he will have his guest speaker event tomorrow on Thursday in the RSC in 233. For all of our senators, I sent out the graphic in the GroupMe, so if you want to see more details on that or would like to share it with your organizations that you're in, feel free to send out the message that I put out in the GroupMe. But the event is hosted by SGA in partnership with the Chakra Career Accelerator and ISU. We will have 5 speakers there attending to discuss post-graduation employment, and it's open to all students and graduating seniors. The main focus of that is the OPT process, scholarship pathways, and job market navigation, and it'll have a Q&A session for students that are attending. We would highly encourage students to RSVP for that event just so that we can get a general head count of who's going right before we have that. For our Director of Leadership and Engagement, Fritz, the Freshman Leadership Council will have their retreat this Thursday at Chicken and Pickle, where they'll discuss finalizing their events for this year, in addition to finalizing who they're shadowing if they haven't reached out to them yet. In addition, they're just adding the finishing touches to encouraging more people to apply for FLC next year, but also just finishing their year strong. For our Director of Student Organizations, Chohan, she contacted advisors last week regarding SOC applications and is working with our treasurer on the finance guide for RSOs as a part of the transition process in the guide that we're making for RSOs to just mass send out to everyone. In addition, we're still coordinating visits to RSOs to talk about SGA, provide support and guidance to them. We visited a couple RSOs already, but we're still gradually reaching out to more RSOs to have our visits to them. In addition, for tonight, for our consent agenda, we'll have 2 new appointments to the Student Organizations Council. If that's approved, I believe our grand total is 4 or 5 members on SOC, and we'll start getting our meeting set up very soon. But if you know anyone that wants to apply for SOC, the applications are still open. If presidents can't make it to SOC and they still want their organization to apply, they can always set a designee to represent their organization. So that application is still live on Chakra Sync. If you want anyone to apply, send them that way. For our Director of Outreach, Wynn, she is still finalizing our items for our end of February raffle. The SGA Agencies and RSO Mixer will be on March 4th from 6 to 8 p.m. in RC 264. If I will put a graphic in the set GroupMe with further information, so if you wish to share it with any of your groups, I would highly encourage that to do so. Highly encourage you all to do so. In addition to that mixer that she is planning, she is also planning to have a sustainability market, so stay tuned for any updates about that. For our graduate advocate Tran, she still has 3 active cases, but she tabled today to promote the graduate student advocacy survey that is live. So if you know any graduate students that would like to fill out that survey or like to learn more about that, please let her know. For our Director of Media Relations, Sadaf, she just said to please share the event posts that we have on our Instagram, repost it on your stories, send it to people that you might find would be interested in this sort of events. This Thursday is pretty busy, but if you send it out to as many students as you know, we will be very grateful for that. I will yield the rest of my time to undergraduate advocate Wassinger to give the rest of her report, but as she's walking out, does anyone have any questions for the rest of the report that I just gave?
Are there any questions? Seeing none. Annie?
Clerk Carter, are you going to pull up my slides that I sent you? And thank you so much. I do want to apologize because I totally locked myself out of my office like 5 minutes before. So I'm a little unprepared right now. I'm a little on the fly. Left all my notes in my office. That's okay, you're getting genuine me. While we're also potentially pulling that up, if we can. If not, that's okay, just let me know. I would like to thank you all for being here. I know being a senator can kind of be a thankless job, but I know you're doing a great job, and you may be a small, mighty group, but you still hold a lot of sway and power within the university, and I really appreciate you still taking this Wednesday out of your week for so many weeks. So a little bit about my caseload. It's the same as last week. I still have the same 10 cases, so if you want to look back in your minutes, you can see what those specifically were. We do have a hearing tomorrow for an academic appeal, so I will be soon to be 9 cases, which will be lovely. Everybody is pretty much waiting on their appeal to be scheduled and heard, and there's like maybe 1 parking appeal, but it's just how that goes. They're just gonna turn that thing in and they'll be off the caseload too. But I primarily came here to talk to you about our Accessibility and Disability Pride Task Force. As you know, that was started via executive order, which you all signed off on, as well as our lovely President Hauer. So we had our first meeting on February 6th. About 20 days ago, which was kind of fun. We have pretty much an even split between faculty and students, as well as some staff people. So we're getting more people, and so you are all invited if you would like to go. Our meetings are semi-open at this point, so if you just want to shoot me an email, if you'd like to go, I know there are several of you that are working on legislation that's pertinent to the body. We are sharing that legislation, but if you would want to speak on it for yourself, you are totally more than welcome to. If you also just kind of want to see what the vibe's like, that's cool too. So we'll be having a meeting on Friday at 5 p.m. and that will be, we have a virtual option, but then you can also come in person in the SGA Senate Suite is where we usually do it. So we'll see if this goes up. This is actually all just orchestrated for a bet that your clerk and your speaker have about how long this is going to take us. I'm just kidding. It's not for a bet. We'll give up eventually if they can't figure it out, because I see David lurking up. Does anybody have any questions? Just fill the time.
Are there any questions? I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Could you talk a little bit more about the issues that were raised in the meeting and things that
Yes.
you would like to
Yes.
see?
So constructurally, structurally, architecturally, building-wise, we mainly focused on Wilner Auditorium as well as Lindquist. Lindquist only has 1 accessible bathroom, and it's on the very first floor. There's also only 3 stalls in that bathroom, so if there's more than 2 people in that bathroom, the odds of somebody using the accessible stall who doesn't actually need it are like a lot higher because there's like no stalls. So it's just a little bit of an accessibility issue there. Then we also talked about how people weren't able to navigate Wilner Auditorium and how that was all working out. But I will show you what we showed them the first day. So this is our just opening slide, but you can go to the next one, Noah. Oh. Yeah. So this is what we're using as our definition of accessibility. This is usually used by most universities, and our university uses it as well. So this came from online on our website. So we're just going by accessible means a person with a disability is afforded the opportunity to acquire the same information, engage in the same interactions, and enjoy the same services as a person without a disability in an equally effective and equally integrated manner with substantially equivalent ease of use. You can go to the next one. And then this is also the definition of disability pride. So instead of a traditional definition, we're just going with the flag. So if you're unaware, red represents physical disabilities, yellow is for neurodiversity, white represents invisible or undiagnosed disabilities, blue stands for emotional psychiatric, including mental illness, anxiety, and depression. Green is for sensory disabilities, including deafness and blindness, and black represents the anger and mourning over the eugenics and the neglect that disabled people have to fight against. So a little bit about this part of our task force. It's a little bit different than a traditional accessibility task force in that we are going beyond just meeting code and trying to foster an inclusive community where a disabled student feels as if they can succeed on Canvas just like their peers. So that's a little bit of background about that, but you can skip the next slide because it doesn't apply. Okay, and then this is blurry, so I apologize. But we also talked a little bit about the inaccessibility cycle. So often we'll talk about issues, but there are so many issues that we don't know exist because a student isn't there to tell us about them. So I like to bring up my imaginary friend Sarah. So Sarah allegedly has a problem, but she is a student and she can't get to campus and she doesn't know who to contact and she doesn't even know you guys exist, and so she doesn't message you. So then you don't know. So then you're like, oh, we don't really need to think about Sarah because we don't know who she is. And that just perpetuates the idea that people like Sarah maybe don't need accommodations, maybe there aren't enough people, and that just kind of contributes to the inaccessibility cycle. So we're trying to combat that, so you can kind of remind yourselves too when you're talking to your constituents that there are probably another constituent who you're not getting to hear from, so you can kind of try to extend that offer. Okay, you can go to the next one. This is our purpose, and you can just read it quietly to yourself because it was in the executive order, so you should know it, or you've seen it before, so it's not like brand new verbiage. Okay, cool. We can go to the next one. Oh, we did a little legislative update for them. So we talked about Senator Azard's work, as well as talking about some upcoming plans. Tomorrow specifically, we're going to be discussing, Senator Hatch has some upcoming initiatives specifically to amend the Student Bill of Rights. So if you have any interest in that, it's going to be a big task to take on, and I'm sure that he would love help in doing so. And that amendment would be to enshrine the same kinds of accommodation rights that 504 and the ADA has, except for it would obviously be separate. And the mechanism for that would be that if the ADA and 504 were to be declared unconstitutional or overturned in some mechanism, then the association themselves could say, oh, well, in our Student Bill of Rights, since we are a funding mechanism for OSAT, it has to maintain open. And then you would be able to kind of fight for accommodations. And that way it would just give you a better standing as the association. I don't anticipate that being solved or completed in my time. So I think that's going to be a future thing, but we do kind of touch on it in the task force, and it is part of our discussion. So if you want to be a part of that, or if you have any questions, you can ask Senator Hatch, or you can ask me. Let me see what the last slide is. And then these were the discussion questions that we posed to the group. So you're more than welcome to take a picture or to look, and if there are questions that you find yourself answering, we are totally open to taking those. You can just send me, you can give it to your friends, anybody, and we will take that feedback. Specifically tomorrow we're going to be discussing, or not tomorrow, Friday, we're going to be discussing what the accessibility page says to us. So that's kind of an obscure question, but just kind of looking at it and seeing what information you derive from it, perhaps as a prospective student, but also as a current student. But yeah, so you're all invited tomorrow if you want to come. My email's always open. If you have a parking ticket, let me know. I'll try to help you. If you want to appeal, great, I can try to help you too. Anything like that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Are there any questions for undergraduate advocate Wassinger? Senator Mallard?
Mainly for you, but can we get this in the teams just so we can?
We certainly can. Any other, Chairperson Bobbitt?
You had discussed, or you had stated that the task force discussed the auditorium. Could you shed some light on what the discussion centered on, and was there any kind of push? I know this is an issue that's kind of been around for a couple years now, so I didn't know.
Yeah, the discussion, we can go back to do you want to go back to the introduction questions? It came up mainly during our introductions. So there are 2 people on our task force who are wheelchair users. There's actually 3 people on our task force who are wheelchair users. And there are some people who are ambulatory wheelchair users as well. So it was more them sharing one of their notes or concerns, and also sharing their connection to disability. But it's primarily not being able to watch shows. I can get a ticket, but I can't easily navigate getting in, or there's not space for me to sit, or there's an offshoot where you can get into the building, but stuff like that. And then I think there's also been issues where some of those students want to like participate in fine arts things, but are deterred from the fact that they obviously have a physical barrier. That building is very interesting because it was actually built like during the New Deal. It's like an FDR building. So I'm not totally sure what we're gonna do with it. It's definitely like an old building, so there's not like much that the ADA can do, but we're definitely gonna look for some creative ideas and try to figure out a way to make sure everyone can get in.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, light clap would be appropriate at this time. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, that brings us to my report here. I'm going to try to be quick. So declaring candidacy, March 3rd, that's the deadline. If you want to declare candidacy for the 68th session, or if you want to run for president and vice president, March 3rd is your date. You have to also attend a rules and regulations meeting, which are March 4th, 5th, and 6th at 5:30 in RSC 208. Have to go to that meeting to even be able to run at all. Student fees hearings, March 3rd through 5th next week. There are no Senate meetings next week. There are committee meetings if our chairpersons would like to meet. Just keep in contact with your chairperson. They'll reach out to you about that. March 17th through the 23rd is spring break. There will be no committee meetings or Senate meetings on the 19th because of this. Enjoy your time away. Just take a break. Student fees and bills, to process them, it's a 3-week process, as Dr. Gabriel Fonseca has explained multiple times. It begin March 26th and end April 9th. I expect all of you to come prepared to that. Student fees is a live stream process, and I expect you, if you're able to look at those videos. Because if we, Finance Commission, have to go and sit for hours upon hours upon hours to look at these processes and have that binder annotated perfectly, I expect all of you to watch a video, okay? I got an A+ on that binder today. It was graded. A-, yeah, thank you. So did our friend Tyler here. Okay, and then beyond that, April 16th, our Senate meeting, I will be in New York with a couple, Chairperson Bobbitt and a couple of our senators as well, at a Modern conference. Our lovely Vice President Vaughn has decided and offered, no, I just said, hey, can you fill in? And he is going to do that, so that's great. April 23rd is our last Senate meeting of this session. Oh, so sad. But I will have food there, so yay. And we'll just get to celebrate the session and those kinds of things. And then the banquet will be April 27th. And that'll be super fun and flirty and fresh and very beautiful. Last Friday, we met at the Hardship Fund. We approved requests and also basically informally closed that process for domestic because we just don't have any more funds. We still have a little bit more funds for international, the international hardship funds, but the pool is limited. So we're basically dwindling in that, and it's basically around the end where we just don't have any more funds. SJ Task Force met this morning at 9 a.m. bright and early, and we talked about numerous things such as individual and organizational funding. That's all we got to, but that's okay. We'll talk about appropriations next week, hopefully. And then for Finance Commission, we had individual and organizational funding requests. One of the organizational requests I will put not on the consent agenda, not next week, but the week after that, just because it was requested to do so. And as you know, if you request that, I will do it. Just because we had some more discussion and questions about bylaw things. So I want to ensure that we don't just do that whole object to the consent agenda, go through each one. That's too stressful. And then beyond that, the athletics department is coming soon in April to update us on their annual update to Student Senate, just about student athlete well-being, their projects, achievements, stuff like that, and their progress on implementing recommendations from the Athletics Policy and Culture Task Force. Can't answer questions for that because that's all I know so far, but they will be coming in April to discuss that. Kevin Zoll will be here, the Director of Athletics, and then some other members of the Athletics Department. Beautiful stuff, but that is all I have. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to report from Government Oversight, Chairperson Bobbitt.
No report.
Great. Academic Affairs, Chairperson Grajeda.
I just wanted to let you all know that Chase Billingham, who's an at-large senator in faculty senate, and it sucks that Senator Hatch isn't here, I think. He commended us for passing the Ice Out Ice legislation and urged faculty senate to pass something similar.
Hey, beautiful stuff. Yeah, light clap would be appropriate. Okay, let's do that one more time. Goodness gracious. Okay, wonderful. Are there any questions for Chairperson Greta? Seeing none, we'll move to Diversity, Empowerment, and Inclusion. Chairperson Haynes.
Yes, hi, good evening, everybody. I will keep it brief today. This week has kind of been a slow week for me. However, my ASC listening session is scheduled for March 2nd at 4 p.m. with the ASC Exec Board. Agency updates wise, I'm only giving y'all stuff that is coming up. So Asian Student Conference is having their volleyball tournament this Friday in Heskett from 5 to 8. I believe registration for teams is still open. And then they also have their cooking competition on March 4th. For Black Student Union, we are leaving for the Big 12 Conference on Black Student Government tomorrow at 12:45 p.m. So I will not be here for the rest of the week. If you need me, please do not. Our International Student Union has their general meeting at 3:30 p.m. tomorrow, I believe, in RSC 233. And then their esports tournament is on Friday, also in RSC 233. And then Halo, our Hispanic American Leadership Organization, they had, registration for their Empower Her event closes today, closes today at 11:59 p.m. And they also had their burrito sale today. So if you didn't get any burritos, so sorry for y'all.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none. Student Services Chairperson Adriana Owens.
The Stop the Spread Act has been unanimously approved and will be seen on the Senate floor on the 12th. We tabled the ADHD testing fund with a few amendments, and we hope to see those concerns addressed tonight about reassigning the bill to Student Services with the ability to vote on it. I met with multiple individuals earlier today, and will continue to have meetings regarding the academic accommodations and professor accountability legislation and the Campus Parking Improvement Act to address some concerns that we will be amending in committee. I ask that if you have amendments or additions to these bills, that you come to committee with those already prepared so we do not have to write them in committee. Thank you. On that note, DEI and Student Services will be holding a joint committee meeting on the 5th. Yes, we will be meeting in RSC 257. All of you are welcome. I encourage you to come. Finally, in terms of the elections, I recommend that if you are on the fence about being in Senate next year, just apply anyway, so that you can have that choice to later on instead of having to apply again later. That's all.
Beautiful, thank you. Any questions for Chairperson Adriana Owens? Seeing none. Okay. Our central office looks a little bit different today. Today we have a report from Scott Jensen. Please share us your report.
Yeah, thank you. As you can see, I'm not Dr. Advisor Fonseca, and he's made that very clear by moving the table to the other side of the room, just to make it very clear I am not him. But he did send me a brief update for you all. As already mentioned, the Finance Commission will start the student fees process next week. Again, we encourage the watching of the live stream so you know what's going on. As already mentioned, the declaration period for elections ends here soon. Please continue to share that information with peers and constituents. The SGA office will be closed during spring break the week of March 17th and will reopen on the 24th. Please be sure to pay attention to deadlines of legislation. It'll be here before you know it. That's already been mentioned as well. And as required by SGA policy, student engagement and belonging has improved 6 new or re-recognized student organizations as of February 20th, and I will go over those now. New organizations are Corazon Latina. Corazon Latina is dedicated to promoting academic excellence, fostering cultural awareness, and encouraging community service within the Latina community. The Pre-Veterinary Student Organization, they seek to build connections, offer guidance, and stimulate mutual interests among pre-veterinary students while fostering partnerships with the surrounding animal health community. And then the re-recognized organizations are Christians on Campus. The purpose of Christians on Campus at Wichita State is to bring students into the enjoyment of studying the Bible, living Christian life, fellowshipping with all believers in the body of Christ, and spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ to all students who are interested. Also, the Associated Muslim Organization, it shall be the purpose of the Associated Malaysian Student Organization, very different, I apologize. Let me bring that back. It shall be the purpose of the Association of the Malaysian Student Associations of Wichita to unite students of Malaysian descent or those who are interested in the culture and in building relations with other Malaysian organizations across the nation. Also, the Kansas Association of Nursing Students assume responsibility for continuing the nursing education standards and issues in order to provide the highest quality of healthcare, provide programs representative of fundamental and current professional interests and concern. And then finally, the Graduate Association of Student Psychologists, it shall be the purpose of GASP to connect and support students pursuing a graduate degree in the School of Psychology. And then finally, it was important to note that while SGA office will be closed during spring break, the Shocker Support Locker will indeed be open during spring break. So that is all for this report.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing no questions. Beautiful. Okay, we'll move to section 4, public forum and presentations. Public forum provides a chance for individuals to have the privilege of speaking before the Senate. This is a time for the association to listen to what the community has to say, and to that we offer our undivided respect and attention. I would like to remind everyone that although we allow the speakers the privilege to use this platform, the opinions of the speaker do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the association or the university. I feel like I've memorized that by now. But is there anyone who'd like to speak during public forum? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to section 5, approval of consent agenda. This is our minutes, our individual and organizational funding requests, and then also the appointments to Student Organizational Council. Are there any objections to approving the consent agenda as such? Seeing none, beautiful. Now we move on to section 6, consideration of pending business, 6.1.
Act on request to approve SB-67-151, Management of the Student Government Capital Fund.
Our author today isn't here, so Vice President Fawn will take the place and answer any questions you have.
Hello, everyone. So we made a few amendments. There were a few amendments made to this bill in legislative affairs. So one of the biggest changes in this bill was just that we shifted the application process for receiving the capital funds. Instead of it going through the student body president and treasurer, it will go through the student body treasurer, who will either accept or deny the request, forward it to Finance Commission, and then from there the Finance Commission will approve the request or not, and then it will go forward. Besides that, we shifted the language around for how it will be funded. It will still come out of student fees, but we changed it so that it will not compound every year, where it's $250,000 one year. It will just say up to $250,000 instead of stacking to like $250,000 one year and then $500,000 and just keep on adding on. And in addition to that, we just added some clarification on the accountability side of things that are pretty similar to how our student fees works with accountability, but I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Wonderful. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. This is this bill's second read, so we will move into the debating period on this item. Is there anyone who would like to speak during this time? Not a one. Chairperson Bobbitt?
I move to approve this piece of legislation with unanimous consent.
Okay. If you don't all remember what that is, it's just like it says, approving it unanimously unless there are any objections. Are there any objections to approving this bill unanimously? Seeing none, it is approved. Now we can clap. Beautiful. That moves us directly to section 7, Consideration of new business. Before we get into 7.1 and 7.2, like we discussed earlier, I will be motioning to pull the ADHD Scholarship Fund bill onto the floor, and that'll require a 2/3 majority vote to suspend the bylaws, which require a 24-hour prior period for it to be moved on to the agenda. We'll have to make that vote. If it passes, I'll make a secondary vote to amend the bylaws to allow for that bill to go to Student Services next week for its consideration. Because the bylaws currently state, and we've discussed this already, the bylaws state concurrently that government oversight must be in charge of any legislation creating any scholarships through the association. And because that committee no longer exists in this session, we do have to formally make that motion to suspend the rules and allow for Student Services to do so. Are there any questions about this before I move it to the floor? Okay. Let me get the bill number ready. Or if someone remembers the bill number. It'll just take me a second, though.
It's 148.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to motion to move SB-67-148 to the floor for consideration and to suspend the bylaws to allow it to be on the agenda for tonight. Do I have a second? Seeing multiple seconds, we'll move into the debating period on this item. Is there any debate on doing so? Seeing none, we'll move directly into the voting period on this item. It does require a 2/3 majority vote.
All right, double tap, hold down power button and double tap A, please. All right, you're good to vote. With 18 yes, the motion passes.
Beautiful. Light snap,
Unanimously.
we move on. Yes, yes. Okay, stunning. That moves us into my secondary motion, suspending the bylaws in order for this bill to go to Student Services instead of government oversight as it's legislated within our bylaws. Do I have a second for this motion? Seeing multiple seconds, that moves us into the debating period on this item. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we move directly into the voting period. This does require a 2/3 majority vote.
It is open. With 18 yes, the motion passes unanimously.
Beautiful. Light snap. Okay, that bill will go to Student Services next week for its consideration, and then the following week we will see it back on the floor here. So either way, it's going through the same timeline it would have anyway, because we didn't have Senate next week anyway. So technically, we're not pushing it too much. So beautiful stuff. We learn something new every day. But we will move to consideration of other new business, 7.1.
Act on request to approve AR-67-016 Campus Parking Improvement Act.
Is the author, the author, please have the floor.
Hello, everyone. This isn't just written by me, by the way. This is a labor of love from the entire Student Services Committee. I just needed someone to be the author. So I will also say that this resolution is just a myriad of parking-related concerns, including things like urging the university to increase the 2-hour parking limit at the YMCA to 3 hours, after certain students requested that we change it because those who are using those facilities need access to CAPS, care, student health, whatever, and then want to work out, and that could take up the allotted 2-hour time, as well as the university adopting more lenient policy parking in violations during inclement weather and campus closures, as well as ensuring that during these incidents of inclement weather, staff, faculty, and students can move one personal vehicle into the parking garages until planned parking garages reach completion. Request that the WCU parking garage remain open after 5 p.m. Request that WCU students, faculty, and staff allowed to park at the YMCA parking lot after operational hours, and so much more. If you haven't read it already, What are you doing? So go ahead and look at that. If you have any questions, I'm open.
Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none. This is this bill's first read. It'll go to Student Services for consideration next week, and then we'll see it back on the floor the week after. Hopefully there's no tabling or anything, but we'll see it on the floor the week after, and we can really get down and discuss the more intricate details of the legislation. But this moves us to 7.2.
Act on request to approve AR-67-017, accommodations and professor accountability.
Whoa, the author's there. Sorry, you have the floor.
Thank you. This legislation has been years in the making, it feels like. I've been in discussions about this legislation for about 2 to 3 years. What really made me decide to just continue was just that it needs to be seen, especially with all the stuff that's happening with 504 policies being potentially restricted. This bill just basically recognizes academic accommodations and the idea that there needs to be more sanctions and or some kind of measure for when professors fail to comply with academic accommodations, including a three-pronged system of like diversity training, HR, Title IX, et cetera. It also urges the creation of a committee that would address these concerns. I've already discussed with a few people about changes to that so that we can make sure that this doesn't infringe on confidentiality. It also encourages a lot of other stuff like a survey and the use of collaboration efforts between deans and chairs, et cetera. It also creates the possibility of a dedicated section in the AIM student portal for students to confidentially report accommodations issues, because right now, if you didn't already know, and I didn't know this until literally today when I had a meeting with Isabel, report it. If you report academic accommodations concerns or accessibility issues, it doesn't go to OSAT, which sucks because I'm sure there's a lot of reporting going on that's not handled through the right sources. So it encourages us also to include that section so it goes to the right people. I'm open to questions.
Are there any questions? Okay, seeing no questions, thank you very much. This will go to the Diversity, Empowerment, and Inclusion Committee next week during the joint session that they're both leading together. And that leads us to Section 8, adjournment. I adjourn this meeting at 8:12 p.m. and I'll see you March 12th.